Hello everyone, my name is Gohlyn Dianna Anak Perempuan Suntrawadanam and I will be presenting my legal research titled Separation of AG's Dual Role in Maintaining Constitutional Balance and Analysis Between Malaysia and UK. So as we know, in our country, Attorney General actually plays a dual role where he acts as the both legal advisor to the government as well as the public prosecutor. So Article 145, Clause 3, and also Section 376, Clause 1 of Criminal Procedure Code actually grants the Attorney General to have the role or acts as the public prosecutor itself. So maintaining a separation of power is very important in preserving the constitutional balance in any country. So this dual role of AG in our country actually disturbs the constitutional balance and also weakens the separation of power in our country. So therefore, for this research is actually conducted to actually analyze the constitution of UK and also Malaysia to see whether the UK separation model between AG and PP is actually suitable to be implemented in our country. So now we'll be looking at the problem statement. So this dual role has actually arises a lot of problem or difficulties when it comes to prosecuting any higher ups or political figures. So this can be seen in one of the most popular cases known as the 1MBD scandal. So this case actually involved misappropriation of billions of dollars who many individual actually profited from bonds and pricing. So this scandal was actually uncovered in year 2015, which actually has mainly focused on our ex-Prime Minister, Najib Tun Razak. But however, even though it was uncovered in 2015, it was only investigated in 2018 after the political leadership actually changed to Pakatan Harapan. So, as we can see, this has actually delayed in the delivery of justice. So, this is something that is very negative when it comes to the constitutional balance of our country as well. So this also arises the question whether bodies that are responsible for conducting the investigation, such as the Attorney General and also Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commissions, are not carrying out their responsibilities. So we can see why in 2015 the case was actually not investigated. It is because several ministers, along with AG Ghani, who was actually investigating this case, was actually dismissed. And after the dismissal, ex-Prime Minister Najib Tun Razak actually appointed a new Attorney General, Apandi Hali, who actually cleared his name from any relation to the 1MBD case itself. So next, another recent case which we'll be looking at is the Datuk Ahmad Zahid Hamidi case, where the AG actually effectively cleared any cases which involve 47 charges, including allegation of criminal corruption and breach of trust linked to Yayasan Akal Budi Fund that is linked to Zahid Hamidi itself. Even though there is a clear prima facie, but the case was actually cleared without any problem. And this actually influenced the outspark to actually split the AG and PP in our country. Another recent case is the Tengku Anan Tengku Mansur corruption case, where even though the High Court found that the person is actually guilty, but the Court of Appeal discharged him, and among them is AG's action to actually withdraw the verdict itself. And recently, our Minister Azlina Othman actually says that separation of AG and PP in our country is actually a very complex process. It involves studying other countries to see whether which model is actually best appropriate to be implemented in our country. So these remarks actually demonstrate the need for separation of AG and PP role in our country to safeguard the constitutional balance. But however, there is lack of research when it comes to comparing our country Malaysia to other countries. Therefore, this research will actually fulfill or fill the research gap that is being shown. So next is the research objective. There is two research objectives, and the first one is to investigate the effect of the dual role of Attorney General and Public Prosecutor on the constitutional balance in Malaysia. And the second research objective is to analyze the suitability of UK separation of power model between AG and Public Prosecutor to be implemented in Malaysia. So research question number 1 is, how does the dual role of the Attorney General and Public Prosecutor affects the constitutional balance in Malaysia? And the second research question is, why is the UK separation model between AG and PP is suitable to be implemented in Malaysia? Next is scope of research. So this research will actually examine the effect of this fusion duty, particularly in high-profile cases involving government officials, to determine how it actually affects the constitutional balance. And next is the study will actually investigate the functional contrast between the Attorney General and Public Prosecutor in UK and Malaysia, which actually emphasizes the check and balance that actually guarantee prosecutional judgment are actually free of political interference. And lastly, it will actually offer a specific structure of separation between AG and PP that is suitable and aligns with the political and also legal landscape of our country, Malaysia. Next is significance of research. So the first significant is it provides the insight into the efficacy of the Malaysia's existing legal system. And the second significant of research is when we evaluated the UK separation of model, the study actually offers modification that might be suitable or may be suitable to be implemented in Malaysia to promote rules of law and constitutional balance. And next is this research also focuses on the separation of AG's dual role. So therefore, it actually helps to shine focus on the importance of separation of power. And the fourth significance of research is this study is critical for maintaining the integrity of the legal system and guaranteeing a fair and unbiased administration of justice. So the research methodology. So for this research, this research involves qualitative research method, and it involves the semi-structured interview, allowing for a balance between structured question and flexibility to explore more on the topics itself. So for the literature review, there is actually a total of 10 literature review that was actually used to find the research gap. But however, for now, it will be only presenting 3 literature review. So the first one is this paper actually claims that abolishing the Attorney General's prosecution power will actually benefit the Malaysia's criminal justice. And the second research is it addresses the possible conflict that actually may occur because of this dual role, and whether because of any wrongdoing or so on, can the Attorney General actually claim immunity for the consequences that he has done. And the third research paper, it actually examines the prosecutorial discretion of the Attorney General in our country. And this paper also challenges the notion that the AG's power is unfettered and it is not non-justiciable. So for the limitation, there is total of 4 limitations. So the number 1 is time management, because as balancing academic commitment and also conducting research, it actually causes delay to properly finish up the research itself. And next is obtaining comprehensive data from United Kingdom is actually a limitation due to certain restriction because it is from different country. And next is methodological constraint, which includes respondent biasness, because since this is a qualitative analysis where the participant may provide answers that they do not really think, but however, it is something that is socially desirable for any responses that they make. And next, but last but not least, is finding interview participant is very challenging since experts in this subject are too busy or uninterested or they lack expertise. So for this chapter 2, we will be focusing on the objective number 1, which was stated earlier. So before that, the position of AG and PP in Malaysia, as I explained earlier, where the dual role is actually fused because of Article 145, Clause 3 of Federal Constitution, and also Section 376, Clause 1 of Criminal Procedure Code. So because of this, the AG, not only is he the legal advisor, but however, he has prosecutorial power and discretionary authority to initiate, conduct, or terminate any proceeding if he wants to with a reasonable cause. And the first effect is the effect on separation of power. So the principle of separation states that each branch must not overlap or disturb each other's function. But however, this dual role disturbs the notion of separation of power because it overlaps the judiciary and executive branch. But however, even though the public prosecutor is not part of the judiciary, but he somehow has an influence on the judiciary because he is the one that will be deciding whether to prosecute a case or not. And next is conflict of interest. The dual role of AG, as I said before from the problem statement, when it comes to prosecuting a higher up or a political official will actually has a conflict of interest because they are accountable to the government. And this concept affects the natural justice, and within any prosecution that it is supposed to be prosecuted but did not prosecute has no fairness in this decision. So next is effect on independence of the judiciary. So as we know, independence of judiciary is very important because if something affects the judiciary's independence, it naturally affects the constitutional balance. And for example, judicial officials in our country actually lack independence due to their vulnerable position. For example, the ability to actually transfer, promote, or discipline the judicial official is in the hands of a commission led by the head of the Public Service Commission, which is attended by the AG itself. So the AG has a very much of an influence when it comes to terminating or appointing this judicial official as well. So this might actually cause a certain influence or fear when it comes to not following the AG's rules. So next is effects on work efficiency. As we know, the AG in our country is also the legal advisor, the public prosecutor, and other than that, he is part of other committees as well. So this actually affects the work efficiency because of the workload, which affects the delivery of justice. So next is abuse of power. Because of this dual role, we cannot straight away say that there is an abuse of power. But however, it can be seen in the way that the AG actually exercises his power itself. So because of him having a dual role, it allows him to have a very wide discretionary power. And however, this power is broad, but it is not without its limit. But however, there are still any misuse of power that can be seen in many cases that we have discussed in the problem statement itself. So another case is Serber Dynamic Holdings case in 2022. So it is always said that concentrating power in a single hand of a government is not very good, or it affects negatively to the legal system or the nation's prosperity itself. And next is chapter 3, which we will be discussing on the objective number 3. So in the UK, the role of AG and PP is not like in Malaysia. It's totally different where they are totally separate and independent of each other. So In UK, the AG, along with the Solicitor General, serve as a primary legal counsel to the government or the monarch. And in the UK, the legal prosecution are conducted with the authorization of the monarch, and the public prosecutor actually has a independent Crown Prosecution Service headed by him. So when we are comparing the suitability of the legal structure between both countries, and one of it is the legal structure itself. In the UK and Malaysia, both have similar legal background, which is the same common law system tradition, which allows or shows that Malaysia is actually able to adjust legal system. Because as we can see, we do not only have the common law tradition, but we do have Sharia law tradition as well as civil tradition as well. So other than that, both countries actually have the same government structure, which is the executive, legislative, and judiciary as well. Even though in Malaysia, the judiciary branch is not so independent compared to the UK, this similarities actually allow, or it is benefit as a foundation for exchanging the legal and administrative structure between nations. So next is when we look at the appointment and removal process. In both countries, the prime ministers have the very important influence on the selection of the Attorney General. So this is suitable to be implemented in Malaysia because this only involve the executive and legislative department only. It does not involve judiciary or so on. And however, in the UK, the AG is the one that appoints the DPP or also the public prosecutor with the approval of Prime Minister. So this is not so suitable if the objective is to achieve complete independence. An independent body must be the one who actually appoints the public prosecutor instead of the Attorney General, because even though the roles are separated, if the appointment process are still same, there are still a possibility for any influencing. So next is the accountability of AG and PP in between Malaysia and UK. So as you know, in UK, AG is actually member of the parliament and is accountable to them. And this is very, very much suitable to be implemented in our country because any decision that is made by them can be questioned by the parliament, and therefore any politically motivated decision will be limited as well. So this was suitable to be implemented in our country. But however, if we look at the DPP's accountability or the public prosecutor's accountability, in the UK, the DPP is actually accountable to the Attorney General. And through that, they are accountable to the parliamentary committee as well. And they have the authority to actually examine the action of the DPP or CPS and decision made by them. And the court also has the power to review and question any decision made by the DPP or the CPS through judicial review. And lastly, the CPS actually undergoes an investigation by the HM Crown Prosecution Service Inspectorate. And this investigation, after investigation, there might be any recommendation that is made by them to the CPS. So in analyzing both of these, we can say that this method are suitable to be implemented in Malaysia, except for the accountability of PP to AG, since there might be a possibility of influence. So the finding analysis actually involve 5 questions, as you can see here. And we can say that the research objective have been successfully achieved based on the input of the 3 participants that was involved in this study. Therefore, we can say that the findings analysis and the research objective aligns together. So lastly is conclusion and recommendation. In conclusion, it is very, very much recommended to separate the dual role of AG and PP in Malaysia. And it is suitable to be implementing the UK model, but however, certain changes must be made to have a fully independent AG and PP. So these are, as you can see below here, are several recommendations that is made. So one of it is amending the federal constitution and criminal procedure code to differentiate the AG and PP's duty. And next is advocating a merit-based public prosecutor selection, because it is very important to select a perfect public prosecutor for the country, because they have a very important role. And next is, after the separation, to have an independent public prosecutor office where the Attorney General's office and public prosecutor's office must be totally independent of each other. So next is having AG to be a member of parliament to increase transparency, and last but not least, to propose an oversight body to monitor the public prosecuting service instead of the AG or the Prime Minister itself. So this actually aimed to enhance a check and balance within Malaysia's legal framework and ensuring a fairer legal system. So thank you. That's all from me.